start with just asking for what you want, asking for your desires. So often you'll find that when you start to speak to your desire, your partner actually wants the same thing. And we often make these judgments about ourselves. Welcome back to the show. This is Embodied Relating with Braedy Mac. And today I have a question for you before we jump in. The question is, how are you feeling? Really, how are you feeling? How's your heart? And of course, you could yell it as loud as you can, but I can't hear you. So what I want you to do is, if you're watching on YouTube, pop into the comment section and just drop one word. Or if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, find the review section and just pop one word. If it's excited, or if it's surprised or shocked, or if it's anticipating, or if it's nervous, whatever it is, just pop at least one word in so that I know how you feel. And I know how your heart is, and it gives you an opportunity to check in with yourself and self-reflect as we go through this incredible podcast, which, by the way, is very exciting. I tried my best specifically for this podcast to keep things exciting because the name of this podcast is How to Keep Things Exciting in Your Relationship. So I want this podcast to be exciting, but I want you to take all of the excitement from here that we've learned and apply it to your relationship. So I have publicly stated that the honeymoon phase doesn't have to end. And what that means isn't that other phases don't start, because other phases of the relationship are always going to be there once you get to know each other. You know, if you're in a long-term relationship, particularly over 1 year, you've probably experienced a little bit of that transition in phase. And the transition in phase usually happens from around 1 year, give or take 6 months on either side. But what happens is after the honeymoon phase, you know, things tend to slow down, maybe have a little less sex or a few less date nights or adventures. You know, maybe you have kids or like a dog, you know, responsibilities. And, you know, you have your own routines that you get really sucked into and consumed with. You know, if you're like me, I have pretty rigorous daily routines. You know, I get up in the morning and I dung scrape, boil pull, and usually do some form of cleaning of the nostrils with my neti pot with salt water, which is cool for anyone who doesn't know neti pot. It's where you pour hot, salty water up one nostril and it comes out the other. And then I use this other really great tool, which is called the Neti Sutra, which is like a rubber string. You put it up your nose and it comes out your mouth, and then you kind of floss in between each nostril. Pretty wild. Sounds crazy, but once you get into the routine of it, it's like you can't stop breathing in the morning, which is just a great way to start the day, because your nostrils are so clear. And it's almost like that sensation of when you've been inside and it's stuffy for a long time, and then you walk outside and you get that first breath of fresh air. I find that's my experience after my nostrils are cleaned out each morning. And after that, I'll usually do some form of meditation and writing. And, you know, similar at night, I do some sort of meditation and writing. I have my journal process that I take people through oftentimes, and that I do myself every night, ask the same questions. But this is something that I know is good for me, and I do on my own, but I also now have a partner and have had a partner for, over a year now. And Lo and I are very happy together, and there's kind of this weaving of who you two are as individuals when you're together. Meaning, I have my favorite routines, Loa has her favorite routines. How do we interact in the same house and make sure that we both get to do our favorite routines whilst still, acknowledging each other and acknowledging each other's routines. So all of this, including the tangent about how I clean my nostrils, is to say that there are other phases after the honeymoon phase. And those phases are just more comfortability and more routine and more responsibility. And simultaneously, that doesn't mean that the honeymoon phase has to end. The excitement of the relationship can be brought in at any point during your relationship. And it might be 5 years in, it might be 50 years in. You can still consider how to reignite that excitability, the curiosity, the love that's included in the honeymoon phase, if you so choose. So what I want you to think about right now is your levels of excitement in your relationship. And when you think of the level of excitement in your relationship, where would you fall on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being like you'd be listening to a economics podcast as you're trying to fall asleep. Or, no offense to economics podcasts, but I used to do that at one point. And actually, funny enough, I have an old podcast on the Blissful Movements podcast, which you can find in an earlier episode of this on things like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I have an episode with my old economics professor who was a really cool guy, not boring by any means, very, very exciting, and an amazing mentor to me. So actually, if you want to listen to an exciting economics podcast, go listen to that episode on the Blissful Movements podcast. But you know what I mean? Like those boring economics podcasts where, like, who really cares about these crazy things of how things are made? Or like, I guess maybe another example of that is, I don't know if you've ever listened to these, but there's these sleep podcasts where they tell really slow, boring stories about old men who walk 10 miles down a beach just to find a piece of sand that was slightly darker than the rest. And they just go on and on and on like this. And the purpose of them is that they're podcasts or stories that are so boring that like you can't help but fall asleep to them. And so I have them on my Oura Ring. I also just ordered a Muse, which is a biofeedback device that I strap to my head with EEG technology to monitor brain waves and put me to sleep. And they have a speaker and system where they tell these boring stories. Anyway, on a scale of 1 to 10, that being 1, like you'd rather be listening to that than be in the excitement of your relationship. 10 being the most exciting that you've ever experienced in a relationship, being like enthralled, enthusiastic, excited to be there. And this, by the way, could be at some point in your current relationship. It could be another relationship. We're not talking about moving into another relationship. We're just talking about the quality of that excitement. And I want you to consider for yourself where you are on that scale from 1 to 10 without judgment. So wherever you are is okay. You don't need to freak out. You don't need to leave your relationship. If you're like at a 1, you're like, oh my God, I would rather pour battery acid into my eyes than be in the excitement of or the lack of excitement in this relationship. So I want you to just think about that and, what is it that you could do to take it up a few notches? And, if you're at a 1, 10 might seem impossible or very improbable. What could you do to take it just a few notches forward? What could you do to take responsibility to inject excitement in? And let's think about that. Well, part of the non-excitement of your relationship is because of you. Don't shoot the messenger. It's just the truth. And it's the truth because we co-create all of our life's experiences, especially our relational experiences. And so when we think about the excitement or the lack thereof in our relationships, we need to know that we are playing a role in the engagement of that excitement, or not. So before you blame your partner or think, you've got to leave your relationship, just consider that you might be part of the cause of this. So if something is not working for you, it's important for you to consider, how can I create or stimulate change in this? If you think about wanting more sex, if that feels exciting, but you don't necessarily feel it from your partner, well, maybe you can do your due diligence in how to truly seduce your partner. How is it that you can get your partner engaged and on board with your desires, with what would actually be exciting for you? And if that means, grabbing his cock and demanding that he fuck you, and knowing that that really turns him on, do it. If it means softening your whole body and coming really close to him but not quite touching him, but just letting him feel how soft and delicate you are, do it. If it means preparing her in cleaning the whole house, putting on some jazz music, cooking dinner, sweet talking to her, do it. If it means talking dirty to each other, do it. If you don't know how to talk dirty to each other, start with just asking for what you want, asking for your desires. So often you'll find that when you start to speak to your desire, your partner actually wants the same thing. And we often make these judgments about ourselves. Oh, what will they think if they find out that I like that dirty little thing? What will they think if they find out that I actually would like to make love to them in this way? What would they find out what would they think of me if I ripped off all my clothes? What would they think of me? Let it go. Let it go. Just share what it is that you really want. And if it's edgy, share it, because that's your authentic self, and things aren't going to be exciting until you share that. And if your partner can't meet that part of you, well, then they can't meet that part of you. At least you know that now. You can find out what to do with that. But you've expressed your excitement. You've expressed what it is that you really want, what it is that you really desire. And with some of these edgy requests or desires, so often on a scale of intensity, we think that they're on a level of 10, when really there are 3. And so when we think of what it is that we really want, remember that it's totally valid. What you really want is oftentimes sexy for your partner. What you really want is authentic. So take that, ask for it, bring it in. Because if not now, when? You're spending likely the rest of your life with this partner. it's important that you contribute to the level of excitement that you're both experiencing. Now, the other thing that we have to be aware of is sometimes we have this perception that things are so boring, so dull. It's like, where's the excitement? I just want to be ravished, or I just want to be thrown against the wall, or I want to be lifted up and gifted flowers, or I want to set sail and climb a mountain, and then I'll just like, the adrenaline of it all. And just remember that, that is disguised as excitement because it makes you feel. But the truth is, in any given moment, there is so much excitement happening. Like, look around you right now. Feel around you. Feel the trillions of different sensations that you could feel, touch, taste, smell, see. Feel the richness of this moment and know, like, how much more exciting can life really get than you in the awareness of all of this. Now, there's certain things that we do that dull this sensitivity, that dull this superpower of acknowledging the excitement in every moment, right? Things like, reading a book. Something mundane might feel like, where's the excitement, Truth is, Lo and I, this weekend, we had a really chill weekend. We went grocery shopping. We went to one cafe and read and did some writing. And the rest of the time we did some yoga and spent it here at home. And honestly, it was like one of the best weekends of our life. We said to each other so many times, like, I'm just so grateful for you. I'm so happy that we're here. Here being either home, just in our room, in our bed, in our favorite cafe, in the kitchen. And, the excitement happens in these in-between moments if we just allow for ourselves to get excited about those in-between moments. So it's worth considering, what is it that I'm doing to numb this excitement? I used to think reading was really boring. I thought it was for nerds. And now I love it. And things can change like that. Things can go from one perception to another. Like, that's for nerds and it's boring, to I love reading and I've got 4, maybe 5 different books going at the same time right now, and I can't wait to just dive into them. And I have so much fun sitting back and reading. And so things change over time. And in your partnership, when you think about looking into someone else's eyes, that is a forever mystery. I don't care how well you know someone. If you look into someone's eyes, you can always find something new, and you can always find a deeper depth. And if you continue to be curious about each moment, you're going to find that. Again, we got to take a look at, how are we numbing the feeling and depth of each of these moments? One of the things that I recently did was quit drinking alcohol. And I've had an off and on battle with dependency on alcohol for probably most of my teenage and adult life. And I'd say for the past 5 or 6 years, it's been really under control. And still, it took up a certain amount of space in my mind, where, we might only have a glass of wine with dinner. Nothing out of control, nothing too crazy. But I would really want that glass of wine. There was something in my mind that really clung to how much I enjoyed that glass of wine and found excitement in that. And the truth was, I associated alcohol with 2 things. 1 being partying and excitement, and 2 being, shame, guilt, and destruction of families, as I witnessed, it's pretty damaging pieces within my own family with the use of alcohol. And my family's done tons of work since then to repair so much of that damage. And, we do therapy every single week, which is amazing. And I'm really proud of where we're at now and how aware and in control we are of all of our tendencies and dependencies on things like alcohol. But what I realized when I stopped drinking alcohol this time around was I really depended on it for excitement. And that can change. Now I get really excited about not drinking. Like, I probably say to Loa every week at some point, like, oh, I'm so grateful that, we decided to quit drinking alcohol, and Loa decided to do that with me. And we're so grateful and so excited about, whether it's family games night when we love Monopoly, or when we are in creation mode or work mode, or if we're writing, or if we're reading, or if we're whatever it is, all of the other things that are taking up space now that are actually much more exciting than drinking was. So just being open to the level of change and possibility of change around some of these things that previously you deemed exciting. What looks exciting for you in the next 5-10 years? For me, it certainly wasn't drinking. I was really hoping that in the next 5-10 years, I am not looking for excitement through drinking alcohol. I'm so grateful that I find excitement in other things now, in the mundane moments, in the in-between moments, in the smaller things. And they really do excite me. It's not like, oh yeah, sure, like he used to party and drink and now he goes to a cafe and reads. It's like, no, I'm like enthralled, I'm enrolled, I'm excited, I'm pumped about this, and then I'm sharing it, with my lover, with Loa afterwards, of like what I learned in the book and how I interpreted the coffee and the waitress and all of the things. Like, there's so much deep excitement. And I truly think that intimacy is a practice of sharing that excitement with another human being. So all of these moments of life are full of these possibilities of seduction, right? We can seduce ourselves into the love of this stimulation of life, of the normalcy of life, or of the conversations of life. So I want you to consider now, what conversation do I need to have with my partner? What conversation do I need to have to create more safety in the mundane moments? What conversation do I need to have to reignite excitement in a way that isn't blaming my partner, but in a way that is inviting and inspiring my partner? That's what we really want to do with conversations, with feedback, with these parts of our relationship that feel like they are not where we want them to be. We need to inspire our partner, to enroll our partner in this new possibility. And when you come from a world of possibility, you can invite the honeymoon phase in at any point in your relationship. You can reinvent your relationship in any moment, just by living in this world of possibility and inspiring, enrolling your partner in that. So I'll leave you with this. Be intentional, be inspiring, and be excited. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next show. Thanks so much for being here. Hello, you beautiful souls. Thank you for listening to the Embodied Relationship Podcast with Braedy Mac. I want to introduce to you a program for those of you who are in relationship, who are potentially married or just in a longer term relationship and might be feeling stuck or uncertain or simply craving more intimacy in your long-term relationship. The program that I would love to introduce to you is my signature program, which is the Embodied Relationship Council. And this is a journey where you get to embark on opening the heart and exploring the power of mindfulness, emotional healing, as well as the science of lasting connection. And it's not just about the spark, it's about creating conscious love that evolves over time and actually thrives with more time together. And so this is a space for conversation for you and your partner to come together and to experience what it's like to grow together in love and understand the warm, loving embrace of each other's souls. Through the joys, through the challenges, we learn how to overcome all of this through conscious love. So if you're craving a love that really feels like home, a connection that nourishes your heart, I implore you to check out Embodied Relationship Council, and let's deep dive into your soul's growth, your soul's liberation, and the magic of conscious love together. If you're interested in joining the Embodied Relationship Council, click the link in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing your application come in. Peace and love, everybody.